Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Soo-young, Professor of Finance at Chung-Ang University. Professor Song, thank you for coming on, as always.
Yeah, thank you for see you again. Yeah.
Well, in today's Emergency Economic Council, the government announced measures to support specific industries, including tourism, broadcasting, film, and so on. This is worth about $340 million. How much do you think this is going to help?
Yeah, actually, these tourism and the communication and the film and the so those parts, in terms of the size of economic contribution to the GDP is not much. But however, there are so many employees working those service industries, particularly for the tourism is the most hardest affected. And the film industry also affected because of the social distance, particularly for the communications are the self-employed and the small shops for the selling of the smartphones are affected. So that's why the current sectoral assistance plan has been classified and has been offered to the people who are now influenced by the coronavirus mostly. So this is for just lower income people and the self-employed people, and then the industry who has been hit hardest due to the outbreak of the coronavirus. So that makes sense and very good for the general robustness of the recovery of the economy in the coming days.
Well, now, the Federal Reserve has announced a new mechanism that'll enable the central banks of other countries to swap their U.S. government bonds for dollars. This is known as the FIMA Repo Facility. In what ways will this affect the global economy and Korea?
Yeah, particularly, but several weeks ago, we have signed up some swap deal of the dollar supply directly with the Federal Reserve Bank of New York in U.S., but that is limited to 14 countries. But the recent temporary repurchase agreement facility for the foreign and international monetary authorities, this is quite new and very effective steps to increase the liquidity of the supply of the dollar. The reason is because this is usually conducted by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York through the open market operation for the commercial banks in the U.S. who make a reserve deposit to the Federal Reserve Bank. So this means that using the U.S. Treasury bonds, Treasury notes as a collateral, then borrow the dollars. And the reverse repo is also possible, so which means that the lending dollars and then the collateral accept the collateral. So this is applied to the international level. So between the Korean banks and they hold, as long as they hold the U.S. Treasury notes or Treasury bonds, they use those U.S. Treasury bonds notes, and then receive the dollar as submit the U.S. Treasury notes and bonds as a collateral. That is, repo market is open to the international level. This could have. This is also beneficial to the U.S. financial market. The reason is recently U.S. Treasury market has been subject to the large volatility because of the concern of the shortage of the dollar, the international settlement currency. Then some governments or some central banks just sell the U.S. Treasuries in a fire sale. That could increase the volatility a lot. And rather, people and the other agents would like to purchase the U.S. Treasury because of this is regarded as the most safest asset. Therefore, that could increase the volatility of the U.S. Treasury market. That is not good for the stability of the U.S. financial market and international financial market. That's why these temporary FIMA account is as long as the central government, other foreign countries have a FIMA account, they could participate in this this establishment. Then that is beneficial to the supply of the worldwide, international level supply of the liquid dollar currency.
Indeed, very interesting. And now the Dow Jones on Wall Street has just wrapped up its worst quarter since 1987. What's the story in the global markets today?
Yeah, actually, Dow Jones Industrial has been dropped by 1.84%. The Nasdaq is 0.95%. S&P 1.6%. So this is really serious and substantial, significant negative impact on the stock market. And now, because this is mainly because the outbreak and the spread of the coronavirus in U.S. and in European countries, that is right now beyond any some sensible estimation. So currently, South Korea and China has clearly showed the declining number of the outbreak. Number of the coronavirus patients. So that is good signal. But however, in Europe and particularly Southern Europe and the U.S., we have to wait and see, but most likely to be worst hit for the stock market in those areas. So,
got it. All right, Professor Song, thanks so much for sharing your insights today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.